Happy Hump Day, Raider Nation. It is Wednesday. That means it's time for our dedicated mailbag show here on Silver and Black Today, an Odyssey original podcast. Thanks for being with us. Are you still enjoying the win? Looks like a lot of you aren't, and we'll get into that in a second. And I say we, because my partner Moe Moton is with me. He is the senior NFL writer at Bleacher Report, also Raiders columnist at sportsnot.com. You can catch him on x.com at MOEMOTON. That's Moe Moton. I'm at LV Gully. The show is SNB Today. We appreciate you guys being with us. Okay, Mo, well, we are a couple days removed, or a day and a half removed, from the Raiders' big win over the Packers in Las Vegas. And we're going to get into, we got lots of calls. Now, I want people to remember we now have voicemail, right? So you can call us, and we will put the number in the description below the video. Or if you're listening to the podcast, you'll see the number in there. So if you want to call us with your comments, you can do that. We have some calls that came before the game, some calls that came after the game, same with the emails. So you could still email us at mail@silverandblacktoday.com, but you can also call us at the number you see in the description of this podcast or video, 702 number, okay? So you can dial us up and leave us a voicemail. Mo, you excited to hear some of our listeners for once?
Our inaugural voicemail mailbag day. This is big.
Yes, so we're going to get right into it because we got some and we want to get to those. First, we're going to go out to our good friend HTC in Phoenix. And this one is pretty funny and actually fits in with what I wanted to talk to you about at the beginning of the show anyway, because I knew we would have mail on it. And you know my opinion from the postgame show. And so here's HTC from Phoenix. If I get the right one in. There we go. Here he is.
Hey, it's TC from Arizona, and I have a question. But first, did you know that the Van Halen box set with the Sammy Hagar albums came out today? Yeah, on Friday. Beautiful. So make sure you stop by and get it at a local record store, or, even better, one in Arizona. So my question is, a lot of people have said, well, one in particular, probably the smartest guy I've ever met, has said, when it comes to the Raiders, that's where careers go to die. Do you think that's the case with Jimmy Garoppolo? I mean, at the beginning of the year, I thought the Raiders were going to have a good year, and now Jimmy's kind of got off the rails here with concussion. So let me know your thoughts, guys. Love the show.
All right, there you go. HTC in Phoenix. And Mo, I'll start. I don't know if the Raiders are a place where people's careers go to die, but Jimmy G has not impressed. He's been completely underwhelming. He's turned the ball over way too many times. And I know it's only 5 weeks in, my friend, and you could tell me to walk back from the cliff here on this one, but I just don't. I think it's a bust. I don't think it's going to work, and I don't think you're going to see a significant improvement out of this offense with him behind center.
I think Jimmy G is what he is. I think the expectations for Jimmy G coming into the offseason for some Raider fans, not all, for some Raider fans were too high. I think they were expecting too much of Jimmy G. Once you remove him out of that 49ers supporting environment, you're seeing a totally different quarterback. And I think that would be the case for a lot of quarterbacks that play well in San Francisco and go elsewhere. Now, it didn't work out for Trey Lance, but I watched a lot of 49er games, and I just wasn't impressed in Jimmy G. I was on this show for weeks saying I don't want Jimmy G in Vegas because he's not that good of a quarterback. I said not only is he injury prone, he's not that good of a quarterback. And here we are, 5 weeks into the season. He has 6 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. I think the expectations for him were too high coming in. I will say that I don't think it's where careers go to die, and now Vegas. But I think it's been hard for a lot of players to find success with the Raiders because I think the coaching deficiencies have shown up. I talk about development a lot. Coaching staff, their main job is to develop players, and the Raiders haven't had the coaching staff that's been able to do that. Now we're starting to see more of that for Patrick Graham on the defensive side of the ball. True. But Josh McDaniels, the offensive line has regressed. Josh Jacobs has regressed. Jacoby Myers looks great coming from the New England team, but it's not enough to say that, okay, this Raiders team is on the right track. But I will say about Jimmy Garoppolo, he is what he is. I don't think he's going to get much better.
Yeah, and you can wag your finger and tell me I told you so. I mean, I had higher expectations of Garoppolo turning the ball over. I mean, we heard at the beginning when he got signed. By the way, HTC, thank you again for your call, and I will order my Van Halen record from you. But he has been brutal. He does not make good decisions. He's not seeing open receivers. We saw with Devontae Adams after the game. Excuses from Josh McDaniels, frankly. Well, he's in coverage, double coverage. And then Devontae Adams not showing up as coach, Mo, but still saying, he said, listen, I get doubled all the time. You still got to find me. That's what he said, basically, right? So that shows you the quarterback. And even they've mentioned on the broadcast, there's not a sync there. There's not and I understand new quarterback and receiver takes some time, but you're 5 games in. He missed a game, 4 games in, fine. Still not good. And I don't understand, to your point about player development, if you're going to say, hey, we got a bridge quarterback so that we can get the team spots all figured out and get younger and all this kind of jazz, you want this guy coaching your young players because they don't seem to be improving. I mean, that's plain and simple. All right. You ready? Did you have something else to say before we move on? All right.
Nope.
We're going to go now to, I think it's Los Angeles, if I remember. T. Dougie. T. Dougie's got a question. Here we go.
Get a generational quarterback.
Oops.
Find a way to get that first or second round pick. Thanks, guys.
Oh, I come in at the end of the call. Let's start that over.
Mo, Scott, love the podcast. Love what you guys do. I appreciate everything you do for the Raider Nation, just keeping it real. This is T. Dougie in California. Just wanted to quickly just pour out my thoughts. I'm worried about this organization. We talk about the same thing with Josh McDaniels. Really, it all just starts up there. I keep thinking, what can this team do to turn it around, fix it, whether it's this year or in the future. I know it's super early to talk about the future already, but we got to start thinking about it because I don't think this team's winning, going to the postseason. My biggest thought is this, and I know it sounds crazy. You think about all these teams, in the past that turn it around by, winning more games later on from drafting early, right? We're talking about Cleveland, Houston, Jacksonville, the Bengals. They get that first, second round pick, and you don't always hit, but it seems like that's the realm you need to be in to really, change the franchise to go to a better direction. It's not always the case, obviously, in our Raiders history, but being that there's, once in a lifetime quarterback, Caleb Williams, coming in next year's draft, I think, if I don't want to say tank, it sounds ridiculous to tank, but if you're going to have a poor coach, at least get a generational talent at quarterback, and that typically solves some of your problems and will eventually, lead you to a better path. What do you guys think? I feel like if this team just, stays in the middle of the pack, we'll stay in purgatory as we've been throughout, the past however many seasons of drafting.
So there you go. T. Dougie, smart dude. He's right.
So he's right. So T. Dougie, that's a perfect voicemail because I actually put out a tweet after the Raiders game, and it was directed toward the commit to Khalib or tank for Khalib crew out there. I said this basically. Look, I already felt that the Raiders were not going to make the playoffs. I felt that they were going to be a sub 500 team, but I didn't think they were going to be bad enough where they'll be in the Khalid Williams sweepstakes. Mm-hmm. Because let's be honest, if Khalid Williams comes out, he's going to probably be the number 1 overall pick. So unless you have the number 1 overall pick, you probably have no shot of getting him because, again, he's all anyone talks about when it comes to the top quarterback in the 2024 draft. And I put out this tweet last night. I said, you don't need the number 1 overall pick to find the quarterback that changes your franchise. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts. None of those guys were even top 5 picks in their draft classes. And they all changed around their respective teams. So the Raiders don't necessarily need the number 1 overall pick to turn it around for their franchise. Now, I know it's a lot easier to have Khalid Williams in the number 1 overall pick because you talk about Trevor Lawrence and Joe Burrow, and I get all of that. Mm-hmm. But the Raiders are in a position where they probably won't be the worst team in the league because if you watch the Patriots, if you watch the Giants, to me, in my opinion, worse than the Raiders overall.
Oh, yeah.
Overall,
no
when
question.
You talk about both sides of the ball. So the Raiders, if they wind up, let's say, with a top 10 pick, they still have an opportunity to get a quarterback in a quarterback-rich draft to potentially turn it around. You know, you talk about the Drake Mays, the Michael Penix, Bo Nix, whoever you like, Shador Sanders if he comes out. You know, there are other options out there other than Khalid Williams.
Right, and they have the ability to also move up from where they're at, depending on what they do as well. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we get back to your calls and voicemails here with Mo and Scott on the Silver and Black Today Mailbag Show on this Wednesday, October 11th. Don't go anywhere. We're coming right back. Welcome back. It is the Silver and Black Today Mailbag Show. Of course, we are an Odyssey original podcast covering your Las Vegas Raiders. Moe Moton, Scott Gulbransen back with you. Get right back to the calls. And this is Raider J. I know Raider J from Twitter. I think I remember. And here's Raider J.
This is Jay Raider calling from San Diego, California. My question is, how many more games do you think Josh McDaniels lasts with this horrible play calling? First and goal from the 4 and we throw the ball? Really? Who does that? What do you think?
There you go. Raider J. Thank you, man. From San Diego, hometown. Jay Raider. God, why do I want to put it? Jay Raider.
Jay Raider.
I got you, Jay Raider. How many games does he last? Mo, it goes back to, it seems, I know a lot of people putting the video of Mark Davis calling somebody an a-hole. We don't know that was the coach. It could have been one of the players. Who knows? It could be his 26-year-old girlfriend. I don't know. But I just don't see him getting fired. I don't call for people to get fired. I think he's not doing a great job, to your point about development and also the play calling. Too conservative at times, loses track of time, doesn't manage the game well. But I don't see him getting fired. Do you?
I don't either. But to answer Jay Raider's question, if the Raiders finish with fewer than 5 wins, I would say it has to be on the table. Because I think I explained this recently. Last year, I felt like the Raiders were 9-18 that went 6-11 because they squandered those double-digit leads. This year, I think they're a legit 6-11, 5-12 team, and I think the front office knows that. I go back to the passage that I put out on Twitter X, where basically Vic Tafur wrote a piece, and he basically relayed a message from, not a message, but he basically paraphrased for Dave Ziegler and Mark Davis, basically saying that the Raiders are not measuring this season on wins and losses. And I said, well, what are they measuring it on? It's player development. So all that needs to happen for Josh McDaniels to keep his job is for the rookie class or for the young players to show some progress. Now, we haven't seen enough of that so far. So that's an X on his report card, if so to speak. But the Raiders will have to probably lose, 12 games, have a top, 6 or 7 pick, and there's there's very little progress from any of the young players. If that happens, then it's a possibility that he loses his job, along with Dave Ziegler, by the way.
Yes. And I think both of them are in the same bucket right now because I'm not seeing a lot out of the talent that's brought in. There's a couple good spots, but overall, it takes time to develop players. But are they developing? I go back to your point.
Someone said last night in my BR live stream that a lot of the defensive plays, the big plays made, are by Gruden guys. Crosby, Devon Diablo's been solid. Yes. Nate Hobbs, I know he didn't play, but he's been solid. He's a Gruden guy. Trayvon Merrick is coming along. He's a Gruden guy. The only guys that were brought in that are actually playing well right now from this regime on the defensive side of the ball, Robert Spillane. Yeah. So Marcus Peters has had his ups and downs. He had a play last night, but overall Marcus Peters has kind of been a disappointment.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Jay Raider, thank you for your call. We appreciate it. All right, now a written email, and this was sent before the game, but it's from our good friend Anders Pers. He says, "Hey gents, this time a comment. Just listen to the JMD post-Charger press conference." So this was from earlier in the week, over the weekend, and it was perfect encapsulation of the man. His only solution is, quote, "We have to execute better." He places all the responsibility on the players. They are not executing his genius scheme and play designs. How about I need to scheme better plays? Maybe try that. The man's arrogance and ego are unbearable. He's never done one thing wrong in his own mind. The very definition of poor leadership. Take none of the blame, take all the credit. Good leaders do the reverse. Absolutely clueless. And that's from Anders. You were just saying this, Mo. Same thing. Like after the game, saying, is he going to take responsibility? We don't see a lot of that.
We don't see a lot of it. And I go back to the Aidan O'Connell game where O'Connell started against the Chargers. And I said, wow, he can't turn a ball over in the red zone late in the game like that. I would want to hear Josh McDaniels say, we can't turn the ball over in that spot, but I could have made a better play call. Exactly. Regardless of whose fault it is, you are the head coach. So you have your hands, basically, you should have your hands in everything. So as Anders said, good leaders take the blame, even when it's not entirely their fault. And I learned this from the regular world of working in an office when you're a supervisor or a general manager. Even when it's not your fault, it is your operation. So you take partial responsibility and accountability for that.
And people used to criticize Derek Carr for always getting up saying, oh, that's my fault, it's my responsibility, because they don't felt like he meant it maybe, but at least he did it. Like, I don't see I've not seen, other than say a very generic, even the coaches, we got to get better too, which doesn't give you much. It's sort of like you're saying it to say it, but you can tell when people are kind of coming from a place, right?
And that's why I said, I could have made a better play call, because it puts the onus and accountability on you.
Correct.
It doesn't reflect it on, the coaching staff, which is a collective group. Say I, because then you're saying me. I need to do better as well.
Right. There you go. All right. Now we move on to San Francisco. Pino, San Francisco. And here is your question for Mo and I.
More of Chad Ochocinco in this offense. A lot of people like to compare him to a Wes Welker or a Julian Edelman, just because he's a white boy. He seems to be more of a freelancer when it comes to his routes in the field. I remember when he first came in the league, he did have some troubles acclimating to the offense. So I think within Josh McDaniels' offense, Hunter Renfrow is just not a fit, and I would much rather have an edge rusher and just give them more reps to the young guys. So that's my 2 cents, but hey, what the hell do I know? I sell insurance. I don't play football or coach football. So anyway, have a great show.
All right.
Peace out.
There you go. Pino in San Francisco. Thanks, man. And now we know where to go for insurance if we need any.
There you go.
But he's bringing up the point about the conversation this week about perhaps Hunter Renfrow being moved as the Raiders search for a defensive end. Again, they continue not to use him. They continue not to be upfront about it. I don't expect them to go out and say, yeah, we're done with the guy. We're going to try to trade him. But they're also not showcasing. Mo, how do you drive up trade value when a guy gets 1 or 2 targets a game?
You don't. You have to package him with a draft pick in order to move him, because no team is going to take his contract straight up with the little productions he's had over the past year and a half now. So I think, to the caller's point, I think even though he sells insurance, he's absolutely correct in his assessment that Hunter Renfrow as a route runner is more of a freelance. And I think Josh McDaniels wants guys who are going to do things the way he wants it in his system. I'm not there, so I hate to speculate on this, but what it seems like to me is that there's not a lot of room for Hunter Renfrow's creativity when it comes to the route running, and that maybe that's why he's not getting the ball as much as he should be getting it. And if that's the case, he's not a fit for the Raiders offense. The first thing that set me off to say that was when they brought in Jacoby Myers. And I know Jacoby Myers lines up mostly on the outside now, but when they brought in Jacoby Myers, it was clear Jacoby Myers is going to be the number 2 wide receiver behind Devontae Adams. Then you draft a slot wide receiver in Trey Tucker. So then you have the present cutting into Hunter Renfrow snaps, and then you have the future eventually cutting into Hunter Renfrow snaps. So that's why I've always said during the offseason, even though he's still on the roster, that eventually Hunter Renfrow is just going to get moved. And it's only a matter of time, but I think what's holding it up is the Raiders aren't getting any offers for him to move him.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for your call again. We're going to get to our resident comedian, AJ DeMello, who's been a long time listener here. And AJ sent me a message. It was before the game. He said they will not win tonight. McDaniels will not start the kid. The locker room will fall apart and Adams will be traded. Glad I canceled my Fubo TV to watch games because this organization ain't worth anyone's time or money. No jokes, all real talk. Just sending this as I am right now. We are all really tired of this. It's getting out of hand, a disappointment again, and let it hit you at 120 miles per hour in real time. At least if they start the kid, the team would respect the coach and we'd have a chance to keep Adams if Farva is good. So stupid man, so stupid man, so stupid man. You go get talent only to let it spoil. So this organization is doomed. And that is AJ. Now, he did send me a note after where he kind of was like, okay, I feel a little better. But he brings up a good point, though, too, which is what I was going to get to, Mo, which is the idea that if you have a couple more games like this, now I know they won, but this is where you start to see, and you've been calling for it, the Aiden O'Connell situation. See what you got. Do you need to go draft a quarterback this year? You're going to have to get a new quarterback next year. It has to be a young quarterback. But maybe you don't if Aiden O'Connell can start the rest of the season and shows great promise. I don't know. I can't tell you if that happens. It would be unprecedented, not unprecedented, but it'd be not unprecedented if it happened. So to me, you now find yourself in a bind. They've now backed themselves into a corner with a quarterback again. And frankly, they could get rid of him next year if somebody's willing to take on some salary, but who's going to want to trade for Jimmy Garoppolo?
Unless Aiden O'Connell looks like the next coming of Peyton Manning, I'm drafting a quarterback regardless. Because this is a really good quarterback draft.
Right.
If you're a team that is iffy about your quarterback position or you clearly don't have the future, you're drafting a quarterback. Like I said, unless Aiden O'Connell throws for, 30 touchdowns in the next, for the remainder of the season, and he's clearly the guy and doesn't need any competition, I'm drafting a quarterback anyway. But I don't even remember what the question was. I mean, was AJ just putting out his feeling?
He was just venting, and we're okay with that. If you want to leave that on the voicemail too, totally fine with that. Any way you want to send it in, we'll address it and talk about your points. And I think his point. If you listen to a lot of Raider Nation, it's the same thing. Even when you saw them win, people are really still not happy because of how they won, but also what the play they saw, the lack of development, the backwards motions of this team, the fact that they were regressing in many, many areas, not on defense. Defense, we saw a jump there, but otherwise on offense, not good. So thank you for your call. We appreciate it, man. Or I should say your email, AJ, and hope you're gigging and doing well out there telling jokes. All right. Our last call. Go ahead, Mo.
I was going to say, AJ, I wonder how you feel after that game, and how would you feel if the Raiders went on a 3-game win streak? Would that change your mind a little bit? Leave a voicemail right back and
yes,
answer that question for me.
We will. I'm sure he will. All right. So then here is our last call and submission of the day. It's Matt from Maryland, and hopefully I didn't.
First of all, I love the show.
There we go.
I always listen every week. You know what I'm saying? I like y'all. Y'all keep it real, and I like that about y'all. Not too fan-basedy, you know what I'm saying? But anyway, it's Matt calling from Maryland. Zilla Row on Twitter. 2 things, real quick. Let me speed it up. 2 things. I think everybody owe Amik an apology because he made a play and he was balling. He was just balling. He got that dog in him. Everybody, well, not everybody, majority of people wanted him cut, including myself at times. I felt like we was deep at corner. I didn't think he was going to make the team, so I apologize to him if he's listening. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to you. You is a dog.
Of course he's listening.
He's definitely a dog. But the second thing, Tyree Wilson. Why don't we play him on passing downs? Why don't we play him inside? Like, he's strong enough to play inside and battle guard. And he might be quicker, you know what I'm saying? He might be quicker inside than outside. Not saying he needs to play inside all the time, but on passing downs, the way Coon's playing on the outside, he can rush the passer. But interior pass rushes, it's still needed. And I think he might be able to help us there. But that's all I got. Appreciate everything y'all do. Keep doing what y'all do. Go Raiders.
All right, there you go. Matt in Maryland. Great call. Great call.
Matt, first thing I want to say, Matt, I hope you don't take this the wrong way, but the minute you said 2, I knew where you were from. That accent, that Maryland, Baltimore accent,
you knew.
You cannot miss it. You say the word blue or YouTube, you can definitely hear the accent. So shout out to you, Matt. I'm, again, not making fun of your accent, but because I know I probably have a New York accent. People make fun of my voice all the time. But I knew exactly where you were from once you said a certain word. But I will say, to the question.
You got 2 minutes left, Mo.
2 minutes. He's absolutely right. Number one, I like the idea of moving Tyree Wilson inside. I actually said this on my Bleacher Report Live on Tuesday that if the Raiders get the pass rusher, as the report said, Diana Rossini put out that report, I think they should go after Carl Lawson. If they get a long-term guy who could play defensive end, why not experiment with Tyree Wilson on the inside? Because as Matt said, he could be a lot quicker than some of the interior offensive linemen and possibly get to the quarterback and generate some pressure. So I think they should experiment with that because he does have the strength and he's, as I said, probably quicker than a lot of guards and centers in the league. So that's something that the Raiders should experiment with on their defense.
Absolutely. Great call. We appreciate it, you guys. And we're going to get out of here for a shorter show than usual. We'll go a little longer next time, but Mo and I have had a crazy day and bagged. We got to go on to a couple other things. But again, make sure you send in your mail to mail@silverandblacktoday.com or check out the phone number listed in the description of the podcast or on the YouTube video below. And you can call that in as well. We might even get, you know what? We'll get to some more of them tomorrow, Mo. We got a couple emails we'll get to on our Thursday show. Make sure you join us tomorrow as we talk about the Raiders heading into their next game. Go ahead.
And as Matt said, we do owe Amik an apology. I also, like you, Matt, thought he was going to be cut. Shout out to Amik, made a big play. People wanted him cut. People thought he was at the door. He's still there. He's still making plays. Shout out to him. Good for Amik.
All right, there you go. Make sure you follow Mo on x.com, MOEMOTON. I am at LV Gully. Everybody, we will talk to you tomorrow on Silver and Black Today, the Thursday edition. For our producer, Mike Robier, for Moe Moton, I'm Scott Gulbransen. We'll talk to you then.